Baylor had a pretty good day yesterday, although it's the future. That's what recruiting is. And so is even the transfer portal. A couple of young defensive stars from Dangerfield. They were just knocked out in the quarterfinals by Wascom in the quarterfinal round, committed to Baylor, and Grayson Grundhafer, Sikkim365.com recruiting analyst, that joins us to discuss that. Grayson, I had talked to David Mims, former Dangerfield and Baylor star, and he mentioned he thought these guys were close. I know you are all over it. Your thoughts about what Hampton and Rogers mean, at least to kickstart the future?
Yeah, I mean, they weren't offered all that long ago. Neither one was, and they were offered very kind of closely together. And both guys mentioned Baylor as a dream school. And, I mean, that makes perfect sense, and that's kind of why they made their decision so quickly. I know for Jakevian Rogers, he is Denzel Mims' cousin, and he also went to the Baylor versus Oklahoma State game for the Big 12 championship. And I think that was probably a big reason why he ended up, committing. It kind of solidified things for him on that end. And as far as Aaron Hampton goes, he built good early relationships with the staff. I know he's close to Treston Ebner as well, and I think that was a big part of his decision. Of course, Treston tweeted at him as well about making the decision early. So, Hampton's at 2024, so still a long way to go in his recruitment, but he's got a good offer list already, and is a guy who I think people are really excited about the fact that they were able to land him because, he's a very highly rated prospect. And then Jakevian is a guy who I think is going to be a riser in the 2023 class. So very, very talented.
Grayson, with 6 days now till the early signing day, do you expect to see, especially with all these coaching changes nationwide, Baylor maybe flip some guys?
I think there's a possibility. I think the bigger thing right now for Baylor is, focusing on getting the commits and having them all sign on Wednesday. And then, of course, the official visit weekend. They're going to have a few official visitors in this weekend, and they're going to try to round out the 2022 class before waiting till February and maybe having a couple guys out there that they'll try to land at the very end. So, a guy like Davion Bryce, who is currently committed to Oklahoma, he's going to take an official visit to Baylor in January, and he's a guy who's probably going to visit TCU. He already took a visit to Texas Tech, so he's definitely one to keep an eye on going forward as far as a possible flip. The other guys are kind of, I think, still to be determined. I think the staff needs to see who decides not to sign on the 15th, and then maybe they can, use that last month or so to try to go in and land a guy who's maybe decided not to sign and is just verbally committed somewhere that they could flip.
So, Grayson, a pretty good game on Saturday, Big 12 championship. Baylor wins in dramatic fashion. And your thoughts on the game and what comes out of that, and also just the momentum that it gives them, in terms of the message of the program and building it up and what Dave Aranda's doing now and looking like he's going to be around for a while. Just your thoughts on the impact of that win.
Well, guys, 3 commits in a week because they landed Hawkins Pauley out of Stratford, the 2023 tight end as well. So, I think that's a clear sign of kind of how this program is trending coming off of that Big 12 championship win. A lot of people are excited about it. A lot of recruits are excited about the win, excited to see Baylor have success, and excited about what they saw from this team resiliency-wise and kind of the culture that Dave Aranda is building. So I think that's the biggest part of this and the biggest key to this. And so as far as the game goes, it was awesome. What a performance by Baylor. And, I talked to Trey Emery today, who's going to be signing on the 15th with Baylor, the big defensive tackle out of Mount Pleasant. And, he was just telling me how just it was a clear sign of the culture they have and the resiliency they have to get that goal line stand. And I think many people forget, Oklahoma State kicked 2 field goals inside 23 yards. So, that goal line stand was not the only one of the game. And they just were absolute money in the red zone. So, terrific, gritty performance. And I don't think you'd want anything other than that for this particular Baylor football team. They just found ways to get it done all season long.
What about the young man from Allen, the offensive lineman? I'll say young man from Allen. I'll let you pronounce his name because you're good at that.
Yeah, Neto Umeozulu. He is a big-time prospect, a 4-star prospect. He's an interesting one. He's had one of the more quiet recruitments I can honestly recall for a guy that's as high profile as him. He's used 4 of his official visits already. The rumor is that he is on an unofficial visit today to Baylor and then is going to go to TCU this weekend for a visit. And I'm not sure if that one's going to be his final official visit or if it'll be an unofficial visit. And so I think for Baylor, if they're going to end up landing him, it will probably be if he decides not to sign on the 15th. If he decides to wait, I think it gives Baylor a better shot because they could secure the final official visit. But if he does sign on the 15th, I kind of expect him to go somewhere else. He's taken his other official visits to Alabama, USC, Texas, and Oklahoma. And then, of course, Baylor and TCU are kind of in the mix with these last visits. So we'll see. I mean, he's on the radar. He's got a great relationship with Brian Nance. He's been on campus a few times, came for a game and also came in the spring. So it's not out of the question, but the momentum currently does not seem to be trending towards Baylor.
With National Signing Day around the corner, in fact, we might have you on pretty much turn around early in the week next week as well. What do they have to clean up? Anything? Anyone getting loose?
Yeah, I think if you look at the class, you got to feel really good about the guys they currently have in it. I mean, they all seem pretty solid to Baylor. I know there have been rumblings. Kyler Jordan had a great relationship with Joey McGuire, and Joey, that staff, they offered him at Texas Tech, and they've been recruiting him, and he's from the Lubbock area. But as of right now, he had great visits with Dave Aranda, and he's still committed to Baylor. And so we'll see what happens on signing day. He's one to watch for sure, but right now I think Baylor is going to be the spot for him. At least that's what I'm expecting at the moment. And then the other one is one that kind of started trending a different way during the week, and that was Jordan Neighbors. A lot of talk about Texas Tech, and there were crystal balls for him to go to Texas Tech. And I think that is one that Baylor's going to have to fight for. They're going to have to fight to finish and land Jordan on signing day. But, the thing of it is I do think Jordan, coming into this, he had built a really good relationship with the staff, even outside James Blanchard, who was his initial contact and his best relationship. But I think he has built other relationships on the staff that I think at the end of the day will have a great chance of winning out when it does come to signing day. But he's another one to watch because things have been a little bit iffy over the past couple weeks since Joey and James left. But those are the two that I'm looking at right now. There's a few others out there that Baylor's looking to pick up, but the guys in the class outside of that seem pretty solid to Baylor.
Well, if you win a Big 12 title, your staff's going to stay intact, and you need receiver help. What else are you going to do if that's all you can say if you're Baylor, and if that's not good enough, then okay, yeah, you move on to the next guy. But Grayson, in terms of where you expect them to be by the end of next Wednesday, obviously then attention turns toward the second signing day, and of course the transfer portal. Where are you looking at as far as what Baylor maybe hasn't addressed at this point and what they will need to address post next Wednesday?
Yeah, so by this time next Wednesday, Baylor needs to have found a way to at least added one defensive lineman in the class, a 2022 defensive lineman. They got 2 of them on campus this weekend with Paul Oyewale, who is between Baylor and TCU. It's going to be a head-to-head to the finish, it seems. And then Devontae Cezino out of Killeen Ellison. They got to find a way to land the local product. If they can land both of them, they'll feel really good about the class, but they need to at least land one of them. And then, of course, cornerback is an area they need to address. Colleen Shoemaker, cornerback, Kamari Terrell seems like the most likely option. I mentioned Xavion Bryce in January, but I think Terrell is the one to watch on signing day, on this specific signing day. But then after the first signing day, it is going to be transfer portal, and then it's going to be just the leftover guys, the guys who hadn't decided to sign somewhere, and Baylor's looking at them and trying to evaluate guys who are going to be late signees. But, they'll probably add a couple more, I think, in February. And I think the transfer portal, they're probably going to look to add, 2 or 3 guys from the portal. And I know they offered one this week, the Western Kentucky offensive tackle, Mason Brooks. So he's definitely one to keep an eye on going forward. He's a 2-time first-team All-Conference USA player. A lot of people are expecting him to go to Texas Tech, but it's pretty clear that he's going to let the recruiting process play out instead of just making a quick decision. Of course, the reason I'm saying that is because the Western Kentucky offensive coordinator and offensive line coach went to Texas Tech. So that's why people are making that connection. But talking to him today, I still think Baylor is definitely in the running with him. He built a good relationship with Eric Mateos during his high school recruitment when Eric Mateos was at Texas State. So they reached out to each other and have been talking over the past few days, or I guess days, since he entered the portal. And so he's one. And then, of course, Marcus Banks, the cornerback out of who is transferring from Alabama. He visited Baylor during the season on an unofficial visit. So he's another one to keep an eye on.
All right, Grayson, we'll see you next week. It's that time of the year. And you did see, I guess, where they are discussing the early signing period and the possibility that, I don't know if there's momentum or not because of all the coaching changes. Sonny Dykes brought it up with us just now from TCU. That I think, don't you think in the end, if you could pick one signing period, and there always was one in February, the first, Wednesday in February, what would you see if there's going to be an early signing period? When do you think it should be?
Yeah, I was actually a big fan of the early signing period when it first started, but the problem is the transfer portal has just kind of derailed that. And so now you might as well give guys more time to make a decision. So I've always been a huge fan of the February signing period. And also, I think it's cool to have one day, one universal day instead of multiple. I just think it makes it more thrilling, more exciting if there's just one day. So I would prefer the February one. And it also gives guys more time to make a decision. And, with the transfer portal, you might as well give guys as much time as possible just so that, there's a greater chance they make the right decision.
Grayson, thank you very much. Grayson Grundhafer. This is Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. He will join us National Signing Day next week, the early National Signing Day period. If you do it early and you have still all these coaching changes, it's even more of a mess because these guys are locked in because they've signed. If you move it back to January, will it prevent the mid-season coaching changes? Now that trend has started, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to just split the difference. Put it back in January. Put it on January 9th. I don't care. First Wednesday in January.
National title game.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. Well, so then put it the week after the national title game. That's fine. Split the difference. But, I'd rather it be then. So, although now the Super Bowl's been moved back a week, so keep it the first Wednesday in February. You're not competing with that. So.
Yeah, it used to be right in the middle of it. 3 out of every 4 years, it seemed to be that Wednesday during Super Bowl week, and it always stressed me out because we were trying to do our coverage from the Super Bowl, but we had the core of what we were doing with National Signing Day, local high schools, and also with Baylor's Signing Day as well.